DevvStream is a tech-based ESG company that advances the development and the monetization of environmental assets, which does include carbon credits. And with me is the CEO, Trinh, to bring us up to date on all of this. And for those of us and others in the audience that aren't familiar with DevvStream, give us an overview of the company.
Great. No, thanks, Jane, and glad to see you again. So at DevvStream, we essentially generate streams of revenue for other companies, organizations, or even cities and states through the use of carbon credits, and again, with a focus on technology. So in other words, if a company has a technology or are doing an activity that helps reduce energy consumption or greenhouse gas emissions, we come in and provide a full turnkey service where we generate carbon credits and turn them into revenue at no cost to the company.
Got it.
How we get paid is that we get a portion of the credits we generate. So there's really no risk on their part, and it's a win-win for all parties.
Now, explain the carbon credit market. How does that work? How do you measure it? How do you do this for companies?
Yeah, so as we all know, global warming is a massive problem with the main cause coming from greenhouse gas emissions, such as carbon dioxide. To address it, the United Nations and countries throughout the globe have created emissions reduction goals and have signed agreements to meet them. Along with these goals, they created a financial mechanism called carbon credits that would reward activities that reduce carbon emissions. So when an organization or a country does something that eliminates, avoids, or sequesters carbon from the air, they would receive 1 carbon credit for every metric ton that they reduce. Then for companies or countries that have excessive emissions, they would need to buy 1 carbon credits for every ton they're above either a regulatory threshold or a voluntary goal. And these goals are by no means small. It's estimated that we will need to reduce 23 billion tons of CO2 annually by 2030, and roughly 12.5 of those tons will be driven by carbon credits. This is why the carbon credit market is already massive and continuing to grow. The market's estimated to be $1.16 trillion in 2023 and growing to $2.68 trillion by 2028. And that's on an annual basis.
And so a company can hire DevvStream to kind of handle all of that for them, so they don't have to worry about accounting that and doing their own carbon credit market. That's basically.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Now, what about competition? Because we do hear more recently about carbon credits. Are there other companies doing the same? How are you different from them?
Yeah, there are other carbon credit developers out there, but the majority of them focus on nature-based projects, such as reforestation and conservation, which is still very important. DevvStream, on the other hand, is focused on technology solutions. Again, both are necessary in order for the world to address climate change. However, no one is taking the technology approach like we do, even though it's potentially going to be a much bigger market. There are studies that have been done stating that nature-based projects will only contribute up to 20% of the solutions necessary to address climate change. The rest needs to come from technology, which we are a leader in. The reason is because there are inherent advantages with technology. The first one being that it's extremely scalable. For example, we have a technology partner that can reduce energy consumption in wastewater treatment plants by up to 83%. For a small plant, this could equate to over 1 gigawatt hours of electricity savings per year. That's 1 billion watt hours. And just about every city in the world has wastewater treatment. So you can see how quickly you can scale there. Another advantage with technology is that the environmental impact is much quicker. Take, for example, a reforestation project. In order for it to make a dent, it can literally take a decade or so for the trees to grow and mature, where many of the technologies that we work with can make an impact immediately after it's implemented, which can sometimes be as short as a few weeks. And then a third advantage with technology is that the data that shows the impact that's making on the environment is much more precise and accurate. Take the wastewater technology, for example, right? We can tell you exactly how much energy savings occurred down to the kilowatt hour simply by looking at the electricity meter before and after the technology was implemented. And then from there, you can figure out the carbon impact as well, too.
Yeah, very interesting. Go ahead, finish your thought.
Yeah, no, sorry.
Okay.
And this is why we already have definitive orders for our credits for delivery from 2024 to 2027 that are valued in the tens of millions of dollars. One other advantage is the breadth of technology available. This is why DevvStream has over 140 projects in its pipeline with 9 signed contracts that potentially can generate over $450 million a year worth of carbon credits when fully deployed.
And I recently read that you will be doing a SPAC merger that will allow you to list on the NASDAQ. It would be the first carbon credit company publicly traded. Elaborate on that whole process. When do you expect the IPO to happen?
Yeah, over the past 10 months, DevvStream and Focus Impact Acquisition Corp, our NASDAQ listed SPAC partner, we've been working diligently to enter into a definitive business combination agreement. I believe this has the potential to escalate DevvStream to a new frontier on the NASDAQ in terms of valuation, liquidity, and carbon market presence. In December of 2023, we achieved another milestone on our road to the NASDAQ listing by submitting our registration statement on Form S-4 to the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission. And we received our first round of comments back from the SEC. We have since worked on our responses to these comments and are about ready to submit them back to the SEC. We believe that this puts us on track to complete our business combination and be listed on NASDAQ conservatively within the first half of this year. This transaction also assigns a value of $145 million to current DevvStream shareholders. What this means for existing shareholders is that all their shares will be rolled into the new NASDAQ company, and the share exchange conversion ratio will provide an implied share price of their current stock at $2.16 Canadian, or roughly $1.62 US.
Yeah.
So this represents a substantial premium compared to current share prices.
And a huge milestone to make it through that and be actually publicly traded. Anything else, Sonny, you'd like to share with the audience before we go?
Yeah, a few key takeaways about DevvStream. So first, we are a leader in the carbon credit market, especially on the technology side, which is expected to make up around 80% of the solutions necessary. Second, just want the listeners to remember the carbon market is already over $1 trillion annually and expected to grow and more than double in the next 4 years. Third, we have contracts for both generating carbon credits and selling them and expect to be profitable by the end of the year. And lastly, we are in the last stages of our SPAC merger to be listed on NASDAQ and expect to happen again within the first half of the year. We are currently public on the CBOE exchange in Canada and also the OTCQB in the US. So you do now have an opportunity to get our stock before we are uplisted on NASDAQ, at which time it will open at an implied share price that does represent a substantial premium over the current share price.
Okay, thank you so much. Please keep us posted as that IPO comes nearer, and maybe we can do the interview at the NASDAQ next time. That'd be great to have you there.
Fantastic. Thank you, Jane.
Funny.